Welcome, everybody. My name is Pete LePage, and I'm a developer advocate on the Chrome team. Today, we've got another exciting episode of our Chrome Apps Office Hours. I'm joined by Paul Kinlan, who's in London. Paul, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Paul Kinlan in London. I'm also a Chrome developer advocate at Google, and we've got a really exciting episode today about identity and managing identity inside Chrome applications.
Yeah, I think so. Awesome. Well, so let's talk. Let's just sort of introduce sort of the identity stuff in Chrome apps, because I think that's a fairly important thing to talk about. Because Chrome apps, when you if you want to authenticate against a Google app, there's a real easy way, or a Google service or anything like that. There's a real easy way you can go about doing that. It's a pretty quick way to go. But if you want to authenticate against anything else, if you say you wanted to authenticate against Twitter, maybe your own service, maybe you want to authenticate, today we're actually going to take a look at Instagram. But if you want to be able to authenticate against those so that you can make sure, hey, this user has rights to do this and maybe upload files, these are things that are really important that you're going to want to be able to do. As we go through today, I just put up some links to some of the documentation that we've got going. As well, as always, we always want to hear about your questions. The link to questions is up there right now. You can ask your questions at that URL. We'll be keeping an eye on there during the day. It's actually, Paul, it's right there.
So is it looking the wrong way?
It's to your. I'm not even going to try and guess.
Yeah, I was trying to be cool.
I think it's to your lower right. If you look to your lower right. Yeah, there you go. All right, perfect. Awesome. Okay, so why don't I pass it over to Paul, and you can start with a little introduction of the stuff that you've got going.
Identity. It's what we're trying to talk about today. One of the things that we noticed when we've been building web applications, especially inside Chrome and Chrome extensions, over the past couple of years, is that it's actually pretty hard to authenticate against a third-party service. And these third-party services, like Pete mentioned before, like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, things that aren't necessarily kind of Google properties, they've always been like a little bit hard to authenticate against. Like OAuth 1, the OAuth 1 flow doesn't quite work very well for installed applications. Applications not necessarily with a server behind the scenes. And obviously OAuth 2 has come along as well, and people want to be able to take advantage of OAuth 2 and not have to have any specific integrations into the browser for those external APIs, but you be able to authenticate and interact with these APIs themselves. So we've introduced this experimental, it's still experimental at the moment, identity API, and the identity API is, like Pete said, split into two bits. The Google kind of service area where you can say ask for access to docs and a whole load of other stuff like that. And then the third party, the third party flows, where that's the Twittergrams. Yay, that's a new one. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all those types of services. And that's the one we're going to talk about today. It's a really simple API. The reason why we're doing it is we want to make it super simple for you when you're building an installed application to be able to authenticate against a third party service without tons and tons and tons of code. We've all been burnt by OAuth 1. OAuth 2 is a lot easier. But you've got to remember, a lot of services don't necessarily use just OAuth for authentication. They might use OpenID, they might use basic auth, like loads of different types of authentication. And we think that the way that we've designed this third-party authentication system is in a way that enables you to be able to authenticate and basically use any type of authentication process that you can think of. We're going to look at OAuth 2 today inside Instagram. So yeah, should we just jump into the application?
Yeah, let's do that. All right. I'm bringing up your screen now, so they can see your screen.
Yay, that's my screen. These are all my apps. There's a lot of installed applications there. We have a very nice Markdown editor. I'd try that one out.
That Markdown editor is pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. IRC app as well. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about today. We are doing this thing I called it on-air authentication because I had two apps. One was a test app, which I've just realized doesn't load. But this one does, so this one works. And this is the worst looking application you will see in your lifetime today, but it's going to be something that we're going to show you the potential of the API. Click some buttons, doesn't do anything. You would also expect with an Instagram API to be able to view photos and a whole load of other stuff.
Yep.
However, that's not going to work because that is an exercise for you, the listener, the watcher, the reader, to actually implement. But what we're going
I
to show
think
you
they're
is
actually viewers, Paul.
sorry.
I think they're viewers.
Did I say watches?
Watchers, yes.
Oh man, that's terrible.
That's
isn't it?
okay. It's always fun like that. I'm
It's the
giving you
English.
trouble.
It's the English way of saying it.
Yeah.
Maybe. Anyway, sorry. Yes. So this is the application that we're going to fill out, and basically by the end of it, we'll see an authenticated stream of data coming back in.
Okay.
It'll just be JSON, raw JSON data, but you'll be able to see the fact that you can get this information, you can authenticate against the service, and then start to interact with it and build your own things. One of the reasons that we haven't got images is we can't directly pull images in. For content security policy reasons, and Paul Lewis has written a really good library that enables us to do this, but it's out the scope of this talk. So, jumping into the code, what do we have to do to get identity working? Well, it's actually pretty simple. We have an app. I've already made the shell of the app, so it's like the outside parts of it where, basically I don't want to bore you kind of showing you how to create an application because you already know how to do it.
Yeah, we've done a bunch of hangouts and office hours before where we've walked through the Hello World. If you haven't seen one, you can go back to all the GDL events before. You can grab one of those. If not, there's a good Hello World app in the documentation.
Yeah, and you can use Yeoman init Chrome apps or Chrome app.
Great,
those
point.
type of things, which I've done with this actually, which is why there's a picture of Yeoman as the icon. So anyway, the first thing that we always do when we're building applications is just check out the manifest. This is a basic manifest. It's using some localized variables. We can kind of ignore them a little bit at the moment. An app background script, the thing that always runs there. And there's this weird thing here, which normally most people don't play around with, especially when you're uploading to the store, called a key. The key is the public key, basically, of your application, and it's used for authentication and verification that the installed application or extension that you've got is authentic, essentially. The reason why we need this is that we need a consistent ID to be able to actually test our application, because what normally happens in the OAuth flow is that you will authenticate against a service such as Instagram, and then it will redirect the user back to a web page. And our web page, well, it doesn't actually exist, right? It's a Chrome extension URL, essentially. So we need to know what that URL is ahead of time. And the easiest way to do it, and the easiest way to make sure that your application is, that your ID is consistent across even all your machines, is to generate it yourself. And I want to show you a little tip to actually go off and generate one. You might not be able to see this too well, and I've just done the volume by mistake. Is if we go in here, there's B, I think it's A to B actually. Test, I can't spell, but it doesn't really matter. Oh, there we are, got it wrong already, B2A. B2A. Wow. There we go. And that will generate a base64 encoded string, and the base64 encoded string is what you need for your key inside your manifest. You can put whatever you want inside here when you're testing for general testing purposes. It doesn't really matter what you use as long as it's a base64 encoded string. However, never ever publish that to the store. If you're going to publish this to the Chrome Web Store, make sure you just delete the key outside of your manifest, and the Chrome Web Store will manage that itself, which will mean that you have to go and often change your redirect URLs inside your authentication provider, but that's generally okay. But that's a nice quick way of doing it inside Chrome itself. So let's just jump back to the code. There's the key, and we have permissions. And the permissions are these things that basically say up front what your application requires from the user to be able to operate. Now you'd think that an identity permission would be needed. Right now it's not. You just need this thing called an experimental permission. And the reason why you need this is because you need to basically, the identity API is behind an experimental flag essentially at the moment. So you need this flag here to be able to actually use it. This also means you can't upload to the web store today, but soon that'll hopefully change. Okay, so that's our manifest. We've got to the point where we can do something inside our application, or describe what we need inside our application. Let's look at the index.html. Doesn't do much. If we go right down to the bottom, you'll see the word step 1, which is the header. There's a button that when it's clicked, we will launch an authentication flow and a pre. And the pre is just for nice, pretty printing, essentially. There's not much else that we need inside this application. It doesn't need to look fancy, but that's all there is. But interestingly, there is an index.js, which is our functionality. And this is what we're going to fill out today. So if we do this right, I will put console.log hello in here, and if we go back to Chrome, we reload the app, log in, inspect the element. We should, yeah, console log. That proves we're doing the live thing, right? In theory. Hey. Okay, so what's next? So what we need to do is basically we need to actually start to actually, well, provide the information that we need to authenticate. So I'm going to make a var ID, right? This is going to sound a little bit cryptic right now, but basically it's the identity credentials that we need. And the first thing that you need is actually a URL. And the URL is the thing that we're going to authenticate against. And to spare my hair, because I have none, let me just copy and paste something in very quickly. Oops, a daisy, wrong one. Delete that. Delete that as well. Hey, var ID equals boom. There we are. Now this is actually the Instagram authentication endpoint, and as you can see, we've got a client ID. I will be deleting this client ID after this presentation at least. But the client ID is part of the OAuth 2 process. It's the thing that you need to identify your application to the third-party service. And the way that you actually do that is you go to the Instagram developer documentation. It's pretty nice documentation. And then you look at your applications. And I did have my application up before. API console, nope, that's not the one. Help. Hey.
So these are that thing that you have to do, Paul, to initially set your app up with whatever service provider for if it's using OAuth 2, right?
Yeah, exactly right. So what we've got here is a client ID. This is the thing that you present to the to your application. Client secret, which I will be deleting pretty much straight away. The website URL, that's just basically to prove who you are essentially, and then the redirect URL. Now the redirect URL is the thing that Instagram will redirect you back to essentially. And you saw, let me go back here. If we can zoom in, Zoom doesn't work anymore. It's a weird URL. It's not HTTP URL. It's a Chrome extension URL.
Can you just move that up a little bit, Paul?
Yeah, sure. Well, I can't.
There we go. That's good. Yep.
Cool. So we have this weird little URL, which is a Chrome extension URL, and this is why we need that consistent ID, that thing that we put in the manifest to generate a nice ID. That's what we need to be able to basically send the user from Instagram back into our Chrome app.
Right, so that redirects into a Chrome app. So if you think about, like, normally with a web app, you go to a specific URL. With a Chrome packaged app, its URL, even though it's not visible to the user ever, is that sort of Chrome app URL.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. It's basically, that's right. It's just this thing to basically let the other app return into your application. Now, the interesting thing is that you don't necessarily have to have a Chrome extension URL. It's just that like Instagram have enabled it so that you can have any kind of protocol, any scheme.
Okay.
We do have a service which is kind of, it's not live and ready for users or users or developers to play with, where we will host the redirect URL for the developer essentially. So it'll be extension ID I think it's chromiumapps.org. So that you put that in essentially, and all that Chrome's doing behind the scenes, all the application framework is doing behind the scenes, is listening out for either a redirect into its application using the Chrome extension URL, or a redirect into Chrome HTTPS / whatever it is.
Okay, so that way, if some third-party provider forces you to use HTTPS, you can still make it work because our schema is Chrome extension.
Yes, yeah, exactly right. So you can make it work that way, and that's kind of some infrastructure we'll be kind of providing. So let me just quickly jump out. The next thing that we're going to do after putting the URL in is this thing called interactive. Now this is just a special flag which basically says should the browser or should the runtime pop up a special a special little kind of window that you can control, which presents the login details. If you say interactive equals false, then you won't see anything on the screen at all. Now, the reason why you might want false is not necessarily in the OAuth flow, but if there's some other kind of authenticated scheme where you kind of know the user based on information that they put in from that URL, maybe it's like a username password combination or some secret token. I mean, it's a really bad way of saying it, but you might not always need this kind of pop-up. It doesn't make that much sense. You don't need a pop-up to come up to the user to authenticate them because they've already presented the details that they need inside your application. Interactive false will never do the pop-up. It'll just redirect. It'll do the things it needs to do on this remote server, and then bring yourself back into the application once the redirect's happened.
Okay.
So that's all that's doing. It's not anything too sexy, but it's kind of interesting. Now, there's not much to show you, right? I could go off and show you this kind of working. It just would not do anything at the moment because we're not actually doing the authentication flow. Now, this is the important piece that you need in the whole flow. Identity. Oh, I can't spell. This is the API basically where you go launch web. Ooh, what I do for IntelliSense.
Well, why aren't you using Sublime or something like that?
I've never got around to even trying it. You kind of get stuck with your favorite preferred text editor, which is Vim, and I don't even have any sensible defaults in this one either. It's a brand new machine. But this is it, right? Let's see this work. Console.log URL. Sorry, URL. So what happens here is that we have the Chrome.experimental .identity object namespace. Launch web authflow is the method that we call. We pass in the details of the thing that we want to call, so the ID object, which is the basically the information about Instagram, and then a callback. And now the interesting thing about this is that the parameter in the callback that you will receive once authentication is successful is a URL. Now, you might think that's a little bit weird, but actually what happens is, especially in the OAuth flow, is that the URL contains normally the identity token, the authentication token. The thing that sorry, not the authentication token, the access token. But it might also include some things like a session ID or whatever you need to basically have access to, the user's kind of object store at least. So, right, should we try and give this a go?
Yeah.
Yay. We don't need Instagram. We might need Instagram actually. Let me just edit this because we do actually have a new extension ID, and this is what we've been talking about. Is where there we go. I take the extension ID, which is here at the bottom. You can't really see it properly, but on our authentication, it's got a unique identifier.
Yep.
I'm going to just put that in there for the description, and the redirect URL is going to go back into my app. I'm going to update the client. And away we go. So step one, if this all works, reload app. There's our code. So let me go back there so you can see the screen.
So, and as a reminder for folks, as they're watching this, if you have questions, if you're curious about some of the things that are going on, please post your questions to our Google Moderator page. The link is right there on screen right now.
Hey, so here we go. So what's happened here is essentially we've gone through part of the auth flow, and the redirect URL of the of my extension doesn't match what is supposed to be registered. So let me go back. I think I know what the problem is.
So this is the particular case where our app, when we say, hey, we want to authenticate against something, we have to give it a where we want to redirect to, and then it has on the Instagram side, they store where they think we want to redirect to, and so we make sure. Oh, I'm covering myself with a little image there. There we go. So they make sure that both of those are identical, and if they're not identical, they say, oh, screw you, gotta go, get out of here, we're not going to actually work.
Yep, exactly. And basically what's happened is I've constructed the wrong URL inside my request because the extension ID changed between me testing this and me actually just updating the variables before.
Right.
So if all works well, let's get rid of, no, the new tab's fine, developer tools is fine, reload app, and I'm really nervous now because if this doesn't work, then there we go. Right. So we've got the URL. Now, what actually happened here is I've been a little bit sneaky, not too sneaky, because I'm already logged into Instagram. So let me log out.
So you didn't see anything pop up or anything like that because you're
Yep.
already logged in, and Instagram said, "Oh, hey, you're already logged in. We know who this guy is. Like, you feel free
Yeah,
to."
exactly.
Okay.
No, that's exactly right. So Instagram knew I was already logged in, so all they said was, "Cool, you're logged in. Redirect back to the app, and away you go."
All right.
So if this works, we'll do the login there.
So
Here we go.
now we get that dialog that pops up that asks us to log in. This is this interactive dialog that you were talking about before. So if you had set that interactive to false, this thing wouldn't pop up and we wouldn't be able to log in, correct?
Yes, exactly.
All right.
So the interesting thing here as well is that actually what's happened is that we've got a full screen window as well, pretty much. You can, as the application developer, can control the size of the window and the position. So if you want to take it to pop up in the middle of your screen and just kind of small and tight, you can do that. So we offer that, certainly. And we go back, let's have a look at the code. There we go. So we've got this URL. So basically what's happened is if we look at the JavaScript. Let me hide that. We've gone into this callback here with the URL being passed back in, and now we've got the ability to do some extra little bits and pieces of magic, essentially, because we now have the access token. The access token, as you can see here, is it's in the fragment, the document fragment at the end of the URL. So should we try and do something nice with the Instagram API just to prove that it's worked? We've authenticated, but we don't know actually if it works.
Yeah,
Give it a go?
let's.
Cool. Okie dokie. So there's going to be a little bit of code which might not look like it makes sense to start off with, but I know you're all smart and you'll be able to pick it up, even if I don't explain it very well. So let's make a variable called access token. We know the access token is on the URL in the pass back in. So we'll just do a substring URL dot index of. Oh dear, sorry. What is it? What was it? It was the hash sign or the pound sign, as we say in America. Is that how you say it in America? Pound?
Pound, hash, number sign.
Number sign? Cool. Well, there we go. So basically what we've done is we've been really, not that robust at all, in the sense of this will fall over if you actually try to use this in production.
So I was going to ask, what happens if I were to either provide a bad password and it didn't let me log in, or if, maybe I was offline, there was no connection?
So actually, I've never actually tested it with offline. The thing that's happened in the past generally is that the URL would be blank, basically null and undefined. So if you get the point where it's null and undefined, then it won't work. But if you're offline, so the weird thing is it doesn't. It only really ever fires when there's a redirect back into the app. So it's kind of like you could be hanging around waiting. It might make sense to have some more kind of on success, on failure kind of methods, because you kind of want to know whether the login's failed on one side and not the other.
Exactly.
So yeah, if anyone wants to provide that feedback more publicly, I can do it. But if you want to do it, it's cool.
Cool.
Right. Okay. So this is a little something I learned off Mihai Paparita, who is no longer I say with us. He is. Sorry, he's no longer with the Chrome team. I think he's working with someone else now. But anyway, he made a nice little API wrapper around Foursquare. And so I've done the same type of thing here, where I've made an Instagram API. It's not going to do too much, but it's just going to basically make it a little bit easier to make requests, make it a little bit more sane if you want to call more functions. So this is our request method, arguments. So it's going to look really bad when you see this because I don't actually use arguments, but here we go. And then
so Paul, one just quick. Yep, you got it. Never mind.
Yay. So XHR equals new I never get that. There we are. That's the right one. Cool. And now all we're doing is, and I'll show you why I'm doing this in a minute actually, but we're just making it so that we can make XHR requests.
Okay.
And we'll call the callback with some XHR.response. Yeah, I'll do. There we are.
Cool.
So save that. It's not doing too much just yet. So xhr.open. It's a GET request at the moment. Obviously, this API was to be fleshed out a little bit more. You might want to do posts when you're posting data, but I'm not doing that just yet. Instagram.com/v1, if I remember correctly. And then the way that they do the methods is that they'll have like a / like user / fetch or those types of things. Now, I tell you now, this does not look very sexy at the moment. And you might not be
Well,
able to
you
see
know
it.
what? It'll be sexy when you make it work.
Yes, it's going to be cool. So I'm just to move it up a little bit, so just in case people can't see it. Access token, right? It's going to be asynchronous, so we don't need to put anything in. XHR.send. There we go. Maybe that's it. So cool. Right. And I'm going to leave a bug in and see if anyone spots what it is once we get to it. New Instagram. So we're going to call Instagram now, right? Instagram with the access token in the constructor, because we're going to use that for all of our method calls. API.request. Was it users self fetch? Oh, no, it's not. It's feed. Undefined. So I can't design APIs to save my life. That shouldn't even exist, but there we go. I thought it'd be a good idea when I was designing this Instagram API to put an undefined in. Console.log data. And then what else can we do? Output. So output is the DOM element, which is the pre. I think we showed you earlier on in the today. The JSON. String. If
I like the strongify. That would be kind of cool. I want to make it so strong.
Okay, so stringify, and then last week I learned that this exists. You put null for essentially. It will use tabs or spaces, I think, 4 spaces, and print the JSON object. Did not know that last week, and I learned it just for this.
And this is available in Chrome?
I think it's just generally available in the API, so Chrome and Firefox and all good browsers.
Wow.
Right, so should we see if this works?
Let's reload our app and see if it works.
Yeah, we reloaded. Let's get some source control. Source view on.
Okay.
I've already spotted the mistake.
Uh-oh.
Did anyone pick it up in the
Nobody picked it up in any of the comments that I'm seeing, and there's nobody's posted it in the questions, so
oh man,
I don't know.
There we go. Reload. Inspect element. That's how live this is.
Gotta love live broadcasts.
Let's move this up there. A little hint for everyone: if you create a window, give it an ID, and then it will stick. It will stay stuck in the place that you last left it, rather than what I have to do is just reload this all the time. So let's put one in there. So we know we're going to get the token back. Method, access token, spelling's all correct, callback. We'll just put it in there just so we can see what happens. Login, hello, right? So we know we've got the access token. If that works. Oh, another bug.
All right, and somebody just said, and I don't know if this is his suggestion on what your bug is, but is it Instagram API as the...
Yeah, he just saw me type that out, man. That's... there was another one, but we fixed it, we spotted it, reload app.
All right.
There we go. So the bug we just had then a second ago was I was looking at the wrong part of the URL string to actually pass out the, the access token. So here we go, boom. Right, we have an access token. Looks nice. We're going to do the request. Yep, that looks okay. Data, right? So, there's an error.
Oh
man, what's that error? Can you see that there? Is it visible on the screen?
Oh, it's visible on screen.
Yeah. So could not load API Instagram.com. Damn. Well, luckily I know what that is because that was the bug I purposely left in.
All right, we like it when we have purpose bugs.
So obviously the thing that we're doing with all these APIs is that we need to basically ask for permission to access any arbitrary URL. So we're going to basically say when we do the install and the reload, can I get access to api.instagram.com? So let's go back, get to our extensions.
So now that's going to say this app can access that particular set of URLs.
Yeah. So when when the store integration all kind of works and everything, you'll basically, the user will be asked at install time whether they allow access to that URL, essentially, which is pretty nice. It gives the user some confidence about what the application is doing.
Right. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say you can't normally access, like, for instance, I can't access Twitter right now inside this application. I can only access Instagram because the user's granted access.
Yep. And as a user, you know that you're not going to have some other app going in and sending your data to places where you don't expect it to go. You know your data is being handled responsibly.
Cool. Here we go. Look at this. So the API request has come back in. The JSON object, or is it just a string at the moment? It's come back.
Okay.
We will press play, and it doesn't look as nice as it did in my demo, but there we are. I think I know what's the problem. I think I generally know what the problem is. There's the response type is come back and it's not recognized. It's I should have done. Well, anyway, doesn't really matter. You have to trust me that this is a JSON object. It is. It looks rather nice and sexy. And that's it. I mean, that's us basically authenticating against Instagram and being able to query it with a GET request, admittedly. You could change it to a POST request and things should still work. As long as you've got access to that access token, you should be able to do to do the things that you need to do inside your APIs. This isn't just restricted to Instagram. Obviously, things like Twitter, anything that supports OAuth 2 generally should work. And the really nice thing about this is the actual, if we go back to the code for just 2 seconds, the actual core logic is constructing the variables itself, the things that you want to call and how you want to call it. And then the final thing is the experimental.identity.launch web authflow. And that's the kind of, that's the brunt of the API. And we didn't have to have any servers in place to do anything. We just called it.
We were just able to go and grab somebody else's service and start pulling stuff down and into our own app.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's pretty exciting. We've only just kind of, well, me in particular, has only just really started playing with this against other external services. But I've seen people in hackathons like update these app, like call these different services and just start to use the identity API pretty quickly. We'll obviously have more information about the Google authentication against the individual services at a later date. We'll do a hangout around that as well, because that's actually pretty interesting as well.
That works today. Like if somebody wanted to play with that, it's under the experimental API. Does it work today?
The Google one?
Yeah.
It does, but you need to request a key, and there's a whole lot of potential changes that might happen in the near future around the experimental API around the Google authentication.
Okay.
So yeah, just kind of hold on just a little bit with this. The interesting thing is you could probably implement and integrate with Google services relatively easy with this third-party authflow, because OAuth 2 has this concept of scopes, and we have this concept of scopes as well in our authentication protocol. So you could probably do it with this as well. It's just not kind of as seamless, I think, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
But it's a nice seamless API for what it is.
Cool.
So that's it. I mean, I really want to know why it didn't come out as nice as it did in my other test app.
All right. Well,
doesn't matter. We'll leave it. I'm happy.
That's okay. So, the link for those of you who have questions is up on screen right now, so you can ask your questions if you want to know a little bit more about what's going on. As well, if you want to go have a look, Paul's uploaded these samples already, so if you want to go and play with this, I just popped the sample URL up on screen right now, so that if you want to go play with it, did you get it? Here.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
There's a little bug. It was in the callback. I didn't turn it into a JSON, a proper JavaScript object, that left it as a string.
Dope.
So, and turns out strings are proper JavaScript objects, which is why it double encoded everything. So.
Yeah.
There we go.
There you go. All right. Can we actually see it? Let's see it. Let's see it running.
Well, it's there. Do you not trust me?
There we go. Now we can see
look
it.
At that.
That's pretty.
Whee.
Yay.
Yeah. There you go. It's pretty cool.
But could you do it with 2 spaces instead of 4? 4's a little too many. I'm kidding. All right.
Just for you, anything.
Aw, you're so sweet. So why don't we grab one of the first questions that we have, and I'll take the stab at this first question because it's I think a really good question, and it's unfortunately I don't have a really great answer for you today. I can give you an answer, but I want to dive into it more in a coming Chrome Apps Office Hours. And this is from Tommy in Illinois, and Tommy wants to know what the status of native client, SDK, and packaged apps is. And Tommy, as far as I know, you can actually start playing with them today, though it's still somewhat experimental on that. Either next week or the week after, we're going to do our Chrome Apps Office Hours specifically on this topic. We've got one of the great guys from the native client team who's going to be joining us to talk about this. He's going to dive into this in a lot more detail. So keep an eye. It's either next Tuesday or the following Tuesday. I don't remember specifically which one it is, but Tommy, have a peek. We'd love to have you join us for that, and we'll dive into a lot more of the good nitty-gritty details.
Yeah. It's cool. What we've seen so far is cool as
Yeah.
well. So it'll be an exciting one. It'll be good.
Yeah. So Paul, I'll pass this next one on to you from Swatter in Croatia. Is this authentication mechanism limited to just packaged apps, or does it work for extensions as well?
So I've not tried it in extensions. However, it's not under the Chrome.app namespace. So there's a good chance that it'll work. But it just needs to be tested. It doesn't take that much to actually go off and test it. I might go and test it in a minute, but yeah, I've not tested it. It'd be nice if it does, because extensions need this type of API too, and I wouldn't be surprised if it did work.
Yeah.
But I've not tested it. So.
Yeah. So Swatter, one of the things I'd recommend you do is go post that question to our email list, which is Chromium Apps. Chromium-apps at chromium.org. You can go join there. You can keep up to date with some of the latest stuff on what's going on. You can see all the great conversations. We've got announcements about all of the new features that get released. Right now, this is experimental, so shortly it'll move out of experimental. When that happens, we will be sure to let everybody know through our mailing list as well.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I think that's sort of the end of our questions, and a great demo today, Paul. Thank you very much for joining again.
I'll make it a nice, proper looking app soon as
Okay.
well. I just think it's a nice little demo to show you kind of what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if people want to go and download this, they want to try this on their own. So the URL is there. They're going to have to change the secret key, and they're going to have to set themselves up as a developer on Instagram. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, it's a pretty simple process. They've got really nice documentation as well. So you basically just go to instagram.com/developer, click register your application. And I've just actually deleted my client key now, just in case.
All right. So for those of you who wanted to, have a little fun with it, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. I mean, because the interest, how to say it? You go to Instagram, any kind of third-party service site.
Yep.
You should be able to, as long as they support OAuth 2, you'll be able to pretty much use the exact code that we've got today, and just go from there. I'll tell you what though, if you do have any other applications, like any other authentication methods that you do use inside your own services, let us know, because we would like to make sure that this API works for you guys, right?
Right.
So just catch us on Google Plus or email. I'm Paul Kinlan at google.com.
I'm Pete Ellie.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we're our names pretty much everywhere else on the web.
Yep.
So yeah, just kind of get access to us, post on the forum. Let us know what you want to do with the authentication API and the identity API, because we think it's going to be key and it's going to be absolutely awesome, but we need to make sure that it works for you guys.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Paul, thank you for joining us from London. Have a wonderful evening. It's almost 6 o'clock there tonight.
It's almost 6 o'clock, and I've got another. Well, I'm not going to tell you how long I've got left, but yeah, it's a long time.
Awesome. Well, Paul, thanks for joining us, and thanks to all of you guys for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful day, and we will see you guys next week. Same time, same place. Take care, everybody.